Hello. Oh my goodness. This is my first YouTube live. Hello, hello. How's my lighting? I'm still learning. I'm still learning and figuring all of this fun stuff out when it comes to YouTube. All right. Oh, this camera. There we go. That's better. That's better. Much better. All right. Okay. Welcome to my YouTube. This is my very first YouTube live stream. Woo! Yes, yes. So, welcome if you are new here. Well, welcome to everybody because this is my first YouTube live stream. So, welcome to everybody to my first live stream here um, on my channel. I am Coach T. I go by the multidimensional doula, and I delight in the dynamism of multidimensionality as you find, align, and integrate all of these different aspects of self. And so I hit 100 subscribers on YouTube before 2025 closed out. We are fresh into 2026, January, still pretty new to me, but I'm so happy that you all have been enjoying my content. All my subscribers have been enjoying my content, and that you saw fit to come over and join me because I have so many wonderful little bits and pieces of information, and I have so much that I want to share with you, and so much that you need and that I want to pour into you. So thank you for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button and give me a like. And I know they have this new thing where you hype videos and stuff. I don't know much about that particular piece of it, but if you can hype this video, hype it. Hype it. Why not? Hype me up. Hype me up. Hype me up. So we're fresh into 2026, and I've been seeing a lot of people, and me personally, 2025 was such a pivotal year for me in my personal development and my business development, professional development, mental, spiritual, emotional, financial. Like 2025 was really a year for me where I just learned so much about myself, who I am, what my desires are, what my goals are, what my vision is for my life. Who do I want to be? What types of relationships do I want to have? What types of relationships have I been having? It was just a year for me that just had so much impact, and I know has is going to have so much impact on me going forward. And I know that it's been that way for a lot of people. I've been seeing people talk about it constantly, consistently, not just throughout 2025, but fresh into 2026. I've seen people making their New Year's posts talking about how challenging and how trying 2025 had been for them, and I think that that's a sentiment that's super relatable for everybody globally, across socioeconomic statuses, across different gender identities, across racial identities, across everything. Everybody for 2025, for everybody, 2025 was like an eye opening year. And I think that going into 2026, it's time for us to do an evaluation. Like we have to do an evaluation and we have to do a reset. And so I'm going to be offering a free workshop. It's going to be on Sunday, January 11th, which is next this Sunday that's coming up. The 11th, 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am on the East Coast, and the link to register for that is in the description for this video, and it is also in my about section on my page, purple identity PRPLE Identity OS.com. And we're gonna do the 2026 Purple Identity OS workshop. And that workshop is going to give us an opportunity to do a review of 2025. We're going to review everything that happened, what was going on, um, how we showed up, how we want to show up, um, what things do we need to take a look at, how do we want to move forward, and not just what we want to change, but what were the things that we really did well? What were the things that we were able to execute really well for ourselves, and what goals and things were we able to accomplish? What new things were we able to learn about ourselves? What old things had we learned that we were able to implement? Because a lot of the time, the learning piece is really not, it's not really learning the thing, right? It's learning how it is taking the information or what you know and being able to apply it. So it's not just always like collect information, is being able to apply that information. And so when we go into the 2026 Purple Identity OS workshop, we are going to start with reviewing 2025 and getting a better understanding of where we are internally with our internal systems and how we're operating OS's operating system and how we're operating, and how we how have we been functioning or dysfunctioning or malfunctioning in our lives and in the world and in our relationships, in our jobs, in our careers, um, with our friends, with our loved ones, coworkers, but most importantly with ourselves. And so this particular topic in this stream, I wanted to address this idea or this concept of imposter syndrome. As a woman who is highly intelligent, highly intellectual, been very successful in different areas and arenas of my life, particularly when it comes to higher education and professionally in corporate environments. There is sort of, there is definitely a mental emotional process that you go through as a woman in corporate, but not just as a woman, as a Black woman particularly, and being a darker skinned Black woman and being the only me in those spaces. It is very unnerving, and it can feel like, well, it did feel like I don't belong here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's like um your nervous system is in a constant state of being activated in your fight or flight, in your protective mechanism, because it's always like, when is the other shoes gonna drop? It's today the day. It's today the day they discover that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It's today the day that I blow up the Excel spreadsheets, the Excel workbook. Is today the day that I accidentally erase one of the servers? Erase everything off the server. Is today the day that I prove to these people that I don't belong in this space with them? And that is really the um that is really what imposter syndrome is about. An imposter. Imposter is such a funny word. Imposter. But somebody who's pretending, basically. A fraud. A fraudster. A fraudulent person. Somebody who has not earned their way into a space or the right to be in a space, not just in level of work, but intellectual capacity or social capacity. But particularly when it comes to imposter syndrome, we tell ourselves a lot of lies. There are a lot of untruths, or there are a lot of myths around imposter syndrome and what it really is, what it really looks like, and what it really means. And the real reason that many of us, you in particular, if you're watching this video, on imposter syndrome. The real reason that you feel like an imposter is because you don't have a real identity. You feel like you're faking. You don't have imposter syndrome. You have an identity crisis. You haven't cultivated and nurtured an authentic, reliable identity. What you are feeling and experiencing are signals of a symptom. What you are feeling and experiencing are signals of a system that is overloaded. It's not your personal failure. You're not incapable. You aren't unworthy. You aren't worthless. It's not a personal failure. It's the fact that your identity, your operating system is malfunctioning. So you're a high functioning person, and you may even be somebody who describes yourself as a perfectionist. But what you really are is just somebody who is at capacity. You've reached your ceiling. And while you perform in those moments from moment to moment to moment, while you're answering those emails, while you're updating those spreadsheets, while you're looking through systems, while you're compiling reports, while you're looking through dashboards, while you're doing all of those things and you're performing in the moment, you are overriding your internal system. You're overriding that, and that is costing you. That has cost. But that's not a personal failure. That is a system failure. And system failures can be combated. Systems can be updated. Systems can be rebuilt. It's not that you have a problem or that you are incapable of being able to show up, not just in these situations and these circumstances, but be able to do so consistently and without like crashing. There's a lot of conversations about, having burnout, but, burnout, as we've been discussing as a larger group and community and society, is um, is the result of you not taking care of your systems. So when we're talking about an identity and what it means to cultivate an identity outside of just the performances, right? Just the performances. You have to get beyond the titles and the roles. You have to get beyond MD. You have to get beyond JD. You have to get beyond MS. You have to get beyond MP. You have to get beyond PhD. You have to get beyond um, ED. Like those are your degrees, your accomplishments, and your achievements, but they're not an identity. You have to get to the person who was able to get you to those letters and those titles and those roles. Those aren't an identity. And in order to get to your identity, we talk about, or there's a lot of conversations, especially in the personal coaching spaces or personal development, even professional development and leadership development, is having self-esteem, a self-concept, self-love, self-image. In all of those, we hear what? The self. And your identity is about the self. Who is the self? What is the self? How do you identify? How do you identify? And it has to be beyond these titles. It has to be beyond the degrees. It has to be beyond the accomplishments and the achievements. How do you identify? Instead of developing a true, genuine, authentic core person, self, and identity, You're using these titles and these roles, maybe even these relationships, right? Some of us get stuck at being a mother or being a wife or being the big sister or the oldest daughter or the rich aunt. That's why you feel like you're a fraud. That's why you feel like you're an imposter because you've relied too heavily on and placed too much of your personal identity and development in just the title, in just playing the role, and just having just putting the title on you, putting your little badge on. Oh, I'm JD, Esquire. I'm this. I'm CEO, VP, which doesn't speak to again the self, the inner person. That's why you have a constant fear and anxiety about not being worthy or capable. This is why you have that self-doubt because your sense of self is false and the titles and the roles aren't your identity. You're not an imposter. You need an identity. At the 2026 Purple Identity OS Workshop, we are going to do a reset from 2025. How have you been operating? What conditions are you asking your systems to operate under? Where are you operating from? What identity? The self you define, your identity is that self that you define based on body sensation, body image, and the feeling that one's memories, goals, values, expectations, and beliefs belong to you, which is different from having a title at a job or playing a role in somebody else's life. Those are different, right? And the goal and the function of your identity is to be operative, is to operate, is to allow you to do things, to function. That is the goal of what your identity is in operating systems. So when we talk about operating systems, the human body functions off of a vast integration of systems. So you have digestive system, respiratory system, and circulatory system, which are deeply connected to the nervous system. They're all integrated and connected to our nervous system, which itself has many parts. So your nervous system has different branches. When we talk a lot about the nervous system, we're talking about regulating ourselves and getting out of fight or flight, which is one part of your nervous system, right? So it has many parts and it's responsible for things like breathing and your heartbeat, but also your decision making and feelings of safety. When your systems aren't operating properly, then your body can't function. Your operating system has to be upgraded every time your function changes. So you go from being, let's say you go from being along your path of development, at least here in the US and America, you go from being a high schooler, right? You go from being a teenager in high school and adolescence to being a college student, and you go from being a college student to a working professional in the real world, and then you go from being a working professional to traditionally being somebody's wife or somebody's mom, but somebody's something, somebody's romantic partner. But even before that, you're somebody's friend, you're somebody's sister, you're somebody's cousin. You're going through all of these changes and the way that you're functioning in the world is changing, but it's still like you're stuck on the old program with the old system. And a lot of us get stuck with our mother's nervous system. Research has shown that Newborns inherit the nervous system of their mothers. So a lot of us are operating off of the nervous system of our mothers. We haven't even developed our own identity and our own operating system. We're operating based off of the identity and the nervous system that was given to us by our mother from birth. So your operating system has to be upgraded every time your function changes, but also every time you malfunction or dysfunction, there is an operating system check that needs to be run, which is what we're going to be doing with the Identity OS Reset workshop that's coming up on January 11th. We're going to do a operating system check because this imposter syndrome is a symptom. It's not the it's not the full story. It's not a full diagnosis. It is a signal and a symptom to us that something else is going on. So, when you have to make decisions or choices, you look to your operating system, yourself, your identity. You start to assess, you start to make deductions, you start to think, you start to look analytically, you start to hopefully, when you make your decisions, hopefully you're able to do so from a place where you're regulated. So you're operating at a certain capacity where you can really think. You can really think and have foresight, have insight, and have hindsight. Be able to look back and see, okay, well, what was I doing then so that um, I can see, did that thing work? Or like, how did that turn out for me? Or where was I at mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Okay, looking back. But looking forward, what do I want to see in front of me? And internally, how do I want to feel about it? So when you going through and you're making those decisions, you want to be doing those from a space where you're regulated and your operating systems are bolstered, when your identity infrastructure is secure. Many high functioning, high performing, highly intellectual, highly accomplished, high earning women are highly conflicted internally. They have a lot of internal conflicts. They are deeply enmeshed in systems and institutions that ask a lot of them through titles and roles, but don't make space for their autonomy and for them to develop their own identity, to develop a real self, to develop their own person, to be able to explore what their desires are, to be able to be a multidimensional, multifaceted person and appreciate and enjoy all of those different aspects of the self. But honestly, that's why a lot of women tend to prefer the environments where there are institutions in the systems, because they get to bypass having to build out their own personal operating system. Building out your own personal operating system means doing the work of discovering the true self, means figuring out and understanding who you really are, what your true desires are, and the type of life that you want to have, and what your goals are. And that's why, as a coach, an intimacy coach, I work with women a lot of working through their beliefs and their belief systems, and helping them to get curious about themselves and who they are and what their desires are. Because the work of building your own identity, or not even building your own identity, it's more of a remembering and a discovery of the parts of you that you maybe had forgotten about, and some of us never really had a chance to explore and discover, because we're in these systems and these institutions, and the identities are just given to us. The family systems give us an identity, the schools, the churches, the corporations. We don't really have to worry about the self, or we've been tricked into believing that we don't have to worry about the self if we just trust and rely on the system and the institution to give us that identity. You won't have to worry about the self. If you just take this title of mother, if you take this title of wife, if you take this title of VP, if you take this title of lawyer, of doctor, of nurse, of social worker, if you take this title of CEO, you will not have to worry about your inner world and identity because you will be fulfilled. You have everything you need, everything you want, and everything that you desire. If you just take this title, just take this title, just take this title, and that'll be enough. That'll be enough for you. And we've been tricked, or we have, to an extent, we've been misled, but we've also allowed ourselves to accept that. We've allowed ourselves to hold up those beliefs. But what you'll notice is happening is that you'll do all of the things, right? A lot of the high functioning, high performing, high earning, like they've done all the things. We've done the things. We've gotten the degrees, we've gotten the jobs, we're meeting the KPIs, we're keeping up with the clients, we are intellectual, we are definitely being recognized for how well we can perform and how resourceful we are and how much value that we're adding to the organizations or the companies or the groups. But you'll find that the more you accomplish, you'll start struggling with your ability or experiencing what I talked about before, which is the burning out. You'll burn out, especially in these times where we're seeing a bunch of layoffs, we're seeing mass layoffs. And we're seeing in front of our eyes the structures and the institutions and the chain and the systems are shifting and changing. We're watching billion-dollar corporations and companies laying people off. The United States federal government laid off, I can't remember what the number was, but it was in the hundreds of thousands of educated, these are educated women, highly educated women, highly capable in federal government positions. These are women who have higher level degrees, master's degrees, PhDs. I believe there may have been some doctors too, some doctors, MDs in there. I'm not sure exactly what the titles were, but I know for sure that there were a plethora of women who were highly educated, who had graduate level degrees, who were without a job. Job gone. Here's a title. Find fulfillment from this title. Live up to this title. Here's a role. Oh, well, we'll take it now. Thanks. We'll take the title back now. So imagine that these women are just left there wondering, okay, like I built my identity or my life off of being this employee for the government or this worker at this corporation, being a public servant, giving civil service. And now I don't have that. Who am I now? Who am I now? What am I supposed to do? But as all of these institutions are shifting and changing, the United States federal government said that they're no longer recognizing certain professions as professional degrees, and they're taking some funding away from people who want to pursue them. So you can no longer depend on the the school institution to give you an identity, to give you a degree, and tell you that this is who you are, this is what you stand for. The churches and religions, it's been going on, but it's much more prevalent in the public eye of what is going on behind the closed door of churches, with churches, different religions, what's going on with these religious leaders and these institutions. It's much people are seeing the thing. So you relied heavily on being able to be a Christian or call yourself a Christian or call yourself a member of this church or call yourself somebody who was a follower or a believer in the religion, and you're seeing that it's not what you thought it was about. The people the people who are to be your spiritual leaders don't meet the standard for not just what the religion demands, but what you personally what your personal standards are for someone to be your spiritual leader. We're seeing in conversations about marriages and romantic relationships and about mothers and mothering and motherhood and going no contact with family. And so all of these institutions, marriage is an institution. So marriage as an institution, we're seeing women coming out and saying, "Hey, marriage ain't what it's cracked up to be." And we seen women coming out and saying, like, this ain't what I thought it was gonna be. This ain't what they told me that it was, and I'm lost here. I don't quite know what's going on. The person that I put my trust in, or that I gave my heart to, or a significant portion of my life to, they decided that, or they've shown me that this marriage isn't it's not it. It's not going much further than this. And so we're really being left to contend with, okay, well, when the institutions, when the systems, when the structures that are already in place are literally being dismantled, shifted in front of you, what are you going to do? What can you do? What are you going to do? What can you do? As there is less access to these institutions and these industries, women are having to confront their existence and question their place in society and in their own lives. Who can you be if the corporations are laying off the analysts, the VPs, the CEOs, and the HR professionals? Do you want to be a wife or mother when you see how much that costs women and even their children? Is being the oldest daughter or big sister or rich aunt or favorite cousin working out for you? Are the titles enough? Is being in your role or being given a role in other people's lives enough? Is that enough for you? And so when it comes to imposter syndrome, the underlying issue is not a value based judgment as an individual. It's not about the individual person feeling like an imposter. It's so much deeper than that. It's truly about the individual not having an identity. It's not imposter syndrome, it's an identity crisis. I was having a conversation with a client of mine the other day, which inspired this stream about imposter syndrome, is about taking up space, like being in the space and taking up space. I know that Black women struggle heavily with this, especially when we talk about, having a seat at the table or being invited into the rooms and not being in the room, being in the space, but really not taking up space. Like really not showing up and truly knowing, understanding, believing that you belong there, not because you are the VP. You're not sitting at the table in those boardrooms because you are the VP or because you are CEO or because of whatever title that you've been given by the company. You have a seat at the table because of who you are. It's your embodiment. You're somebody who is competent, who is capable, who is intelligent, who is willing, who's worthy. You are somebody who deserves to be in the spaces, at the tables where the decisions are being made because you're a decision maker. That's just that's just who you are. That's part of your makeup. And until you can internalize that, until you can really figure out, really drill down into that self, that identity, that who am I? How do I want to show up? You're going to continue feeling like you don't belong in a space. You're going to continue not taking up space because the people who put you in the room and the people who other people who are in the room know that you belong there. They know that you belong there, even if they're trying to make you uncomfortable, even if they're actively trying to usurp your power. They're trying to usurp your power because it exists. They can see it exists. And when you show up in the space and you don't take up space, you're being irresponsible. You're being a poor steward of your gifts and being a poor steward of your talents. Because if you know who you are, you know your identity, you know who you are at your core, and you know your heart, you know that you use your power for the good and the amplification of the self first. And when you do that, everybody else is good. You know that when you show up in a space, you're going to make sure that things are done in a certain way. You are going to make sure there's a certain level of decorum. You're going to make sure that what they say, that the things that need to get circled back on get circled back. So when you're in the space, you have to be taking up space. It's time to get a little bit more audacity. It's time to have more awareness. It's time to be more embodied. It's time to stop letting other people harness you. Use your intellectual property, control and manipulate you emotionally because they can tell that you're dysregulated, that you don't feel like you should be there, that you don't feel like you belong there. Black women especially, when you're in the room, things get done. Business gets handled, and you are particularly in that room for that purpose. And so when you come into the space knowing your purpose, not just what your job is, not what your role and what your title is. No, I know what my purpose is in this space. And so then that means that everybody else has to serve my purpose in some way. But when I don't come in the space know my purpose, when I don't come in um fully being aware of what my value is and all that I'm bringing into these spaces, into these conversations, other people get to harvest from me without my knowledge and without my agreement. So, this idea of feeling that I don't belong, I don't belong, I don't belong, the problem is not that you don't the problem is not that you feel like you don't belong in the room. You feel like you don't belong in your body. You feel like you feel out of place in your life. What am I doing here? What is this life? Like what is going on? Like you feel out of place within yourself. And so in the performing and the doing, you're dysfunctioning and you're malfunctioning, but all the while you're doing it's the performing and the doing, and meantime you're dysfunctioning and malfunctioning. Your operating system is on the fritz. You're all out of whack. And it's interesting because this year we had, well, oh my goodness, we're in 2026. In 2025, there was a lot of conversation around DEI, and belonging, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And I saw a lot of people, like speaking out about it. And um, I always knew DEI. and belonging was a farce because, it's just something to look nice. It's just the little posters that they hang up in the corporation. But the real problem is that you don't want to feel like you belong in that corporation. You want to feel like you belong in your body. You want to feel like you belong to yourself. And the problem is not that they got rid of DEI. The problem is that you got rid of your own DEI. You don't accept the diverse parts of you, your multidimensionality, all of these differing aspects of the self. You don't appreciate all of the different parts of you equitably. You want to hide the dark or the shadow parts, or you want to play the role. You want to be nice to everybody. You want to pretend to be nice to everybody. And you don't want to have to understand and appreciate the parts of you that may be a little more in on the shadow side, more um the dark character traits that we talk about sometimes with people that you have to have in order to be in corporate environments. There's some darkness there. It's not all nice and circling back and sending emails. You don't include you and your desires in your life. You you are inclusive of yourself. You don't consider yourself and what you think and how you feel and the things that you want, what your desires are, what you want, what you need, what kind of life that you want to have. How do you want to feel? You don't consider or you don't include you and your desires in your life decisions and relationships. You haven't created a sense of internal belonging. And the harder I see people fighting the systems and fighting the structures to stay the same, or like to keep upholding the image, keep upholding the thing, keep upholding the structure so that I can be more comfortable in it and I don't have to develop my own identity and my own sense of self. It's like the more you just fighting for that within yourself. That's really what you're fighting for. You're really fighting for that thing within the self. And so what we continue to get wrong about imposter syndrome is that we tell ourselves these lies that it's a value-based judgment and that we shouldn't be in the space because we're not capable, we don't know what we're doing, when the reality is that the uncertainty, the insecurity, the pressure that's collapsing you, the failure isn't you, it's your operating system, and your operating system can be rebuilt. The issue with your operating system is your identity. How you identify can be rebuilt. Can We can work on that. It's a dynamic process. It's not static. Who you are is not static. Identity development is a key important part of the development of who you are as a person. Even in corporate, they'll have like leadership trainings and different training, executive level trainings, because as you ascend the corporate ladder, or as you move, as you shift and change, as your environment changes, the way that you move and the way that you operate has to change too. And so you have to be able to be responsive to that. And so at the workshop on January 11th, Sunday, January 11th, 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to talk about the Purple Identity OS for 2026. Purple, PRPLE, which stands for Pleasure Reclamation Protocol for Living Embodiment. This is about figuring out what's going on with the self and how can we be more self-centered? How can we be self led? How can we put ourselves first going into 2026? What is it about 2025 that we can learn from, we can use? How can we get ready to build this system out for 2026 that we're going to need? And we are going to start at that free workshop. Okay, there's a link in the description of this video, and there is a link in my About Me section. Please, please, please go ahead and click that link and get registered. We are going to be closing that out on Saturday. So registration is going to close on Saturday, the 10th, and then Sunday, the 11th. We are actually going to host the live workshop, and I have a freebie. I have something for you all to enjoy and a special offer. So make sure that you are there. Make sure that you are joining me. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, and make sure that you like the video, click the thumbs up on this, and share it out. Get in the comments and let me know what you think. Have you struggled with imposter syndrome? Have you ever heard of imposter syndrome? Now that you've heard more about it, what do you think? And I will see you all again next time. I am working on building another schedule for another stream this week. I'm going to be going live again this week. Haven't decided if it's going to be here on YouTube or over on TikTok. But either way, subscribe here. And the links for all of my other socials are also at the link in my bio where the registration for the workshop is. Get in those comments and let me know what you all are thinking and what you need more of. And if you need anything, go ahead and click the link in my bio. I'll see you all in the next live, and I'll see you at the free workshop on the 11th. Bye.